Morning guys. Look, so what I'm going to be doing this morning is just doing a quick calibration on the Cummins Jetsort coin sorter, and we're just going to be adjusting the air gap on the sort disc, which is here, and that's the gap between that part and the mat that rotates underneath it. As you can see, we've already removed the top off it. No great achievement there. And what we're going to be using is our dial gauge, which we should all have hopefully. I've just got a piece of probably 5mm solid aluminium, which I bought from Bunnings in a fairly long length and just cut it. You can use anything that's reasonably solid, and I've just chosen this because it's nice and thin, there's no movement in it, and it won't affect the calibration process at all. 7/16 socket, that's going to be to adjust our points here, and 9/64 Allen key. Okay, and that's going to be to remove our sensors there. Look, this is optional. This is just a 4mm T-handled Allen thing, and that's what I use to rotate the actual mat around. You can use your fingers, there's no issues doing that. It does rotate, okay. It's just a little bit easier with that, that's all. So first things first, we're going to zero back our dial gauge, okay, and just so we can find a reference point which is underneath the sort disc. Okay, so all we need to do is just to release these tabs. Okay, so as long as they're all lined up, our sort disc should just pop straight out. And just while I've got it out, I'll just quickly show you. These are our sensors that go around the top here, and our calibration points will be this one here, which doesn't have anything in it, and we'll remove sensors 1 and 3. Okay, and that will be done just with the 9/64 Allen keys from those two. And just underneath you can see the little cutouts for the coins to guide into. Okay, so what we'll do, just if you're on your own, all I do is just rest it on the edge like that. Okay, and what we're looking to do is just drop that through our hole here and use our piece of aluminium or whatever you've got to use to basically zero back this dial. Okay, so there's a locking nut on the side. Once we've got that underneath it, we can then turn the outer dial so the needle lines up with the 0, and then that will be our reference point for the calibrations. So what I'll do is I'll just loosen that off now. It's a little bit easier while we've got it out. I'll just pop that on the underside of the sort disc and then just pop the dial gauge through, and as you can see it's probably a little bit out, so I'll just rotate that dial around just so the needle's lined up exactly with the 0. Just make sure you've got good pressure on that, whatever you're using underneath, okay, to create that flat surface. It's pretty good. So what I'll do, I'll just tighten that up, and I'll just double check it to make sure there's been no movement. And yep, that looks pretty good. So I'm happy with that. It's all zeroed back for our reference, and each sort disc will be different. Okay, so just because you've zeroed it back on this one, don't reuse that reference. Okay, so do it each time you go to a different side. So all we'll do is pop that back on. Just make sure we've got with the spring. Lock that plate back down. Okay, and just make sure you turn these all the way around as well. So next thing we're going to do is to find our high point on the mat, and you can probably see a little white mark on here which we've done previously. What we're going to be looking for is just the high point as a reference, so we can use that on our other points. And to do that, we just pop in our dial gauge and just rotate the mat around until you get to a point where the needle is closest to 0. Okay, and as you can see, as you move that around, the needle will fluctuate. And our point is exactly where the little white mark is, in line with the dial gauge. So we know that's our high point, and we've just marked it with a little bit of white pen. You can use whatever you like. I've also used a little bit of electrical tape, just cut into a strip, and then I can just remove it afterwards. Okay, so that's our high point. That will be our reference for the rest of the the calibration points. I'll just put that aside and I can remove our sensors out. Just be careful with these. There is a spring washer underneath that you do not want falling down into the unit. So once again, we're using sensors 1 and 3. Okay, so going around from the left. So it's the first one and the third one. So I'll just pop those out. Put that to the side. And those sensors, as you can see, just pull straight out of the holes. Just be delicate with those, they are pretty sensitive items, so I'll just put those aside. Okay, so what we're looking for in our dial gauge, as you can see, there's our 0. Our reference point that we're going to be calibrating to is 0.002 of an inch, which is really only second mark to the left of the 0, so it's a very fine adjustment. So from our first point, which is just there, we'll pop that in, and just make sure that this piece of metal on the side isn't sitting higher than the actual sort disc. Otherwise it's going to give you an uneven surface and it's really going to throw out your calibration. Okay, so you can pretty much tell when that's sitting on there that if it's rocking at all. So I'm not too sure how close you can see that. Okay, so our reference point is pointing towards our hole, and what we can do, that's pretty much spot on actually, but as you can see, as we loosen it, it increases the gap, and as we tighten it, closer to 0, which is obviously closing the gap in. So once again, we're looking for that 002. Okay, and once we've done the first one, we can go around to our next point, and we need to move that high point on the mat to line up with that hole. Okay, so it's just a matter of turning it around. And apologies, you can't actually see that. And it just needs a bit of a tweak. Pretty good. And we move around to our last point. And again, just make sure that high point on the mat lines up. It's probably about 0.005, so I'll just give that a bit of a tweak. Okay. Excellent. And you'll find that when you adjust each one, it can throw the other point out a little bit. So I always go around at least a couple of times just to make sure. It's a little, yeah, it's throwing that one out a little bit, so I might need to just tweak that and adjust high point around. It's actually not too bad now, I've done that. Yep. Check this other point. So again, moving our high point around to line up with that sensor. Yep, 002, happy with that. Around to our last point again. Moving our high point around. Yep, perfect. So I'm really happy with that. They're all consistent now after I've made those adjustments. So what we can do then is just pop back in our sensors. Again, just be careful with these, you don't want to damage them. Last one's in, and that's pretty much it. Again, you should be able to turn this mat by hand. There should be a little bit of friction there, but you shouldn't hear the mat rubbing on it. If you can't move the mat, then obviously the calibration isn't correct, because it does need to move without too much effort, and that's why I use this. It's a little bit easier on the hands, and you can actually feel it quite well. Okay. And that's pretty much it, gents. Button it back up, fire it up, and hopefully all should be good. And you will find that you'll need to do this. I do it with the installation as well, because we have found them out from factory. And if you're getting consistent table errors or coins going into the wrong hoppers, definitely have a look at that calibration. All right, all good. Thanks, gents.